Today is the first anniversary of the Pahalgam terror attack. I begin today's discussion with my tribute to the innocent victims of an attack which had all the signals, signs of religious bigotry and terrorism written all over it. I share the Indian Army's post on X and painfully remember the day when we were forced to recall that the hatred which has permeated the atmosphere since the partition days continues even today. And this is a somber remembrance for the people who died and also to the people that never forgive, never forgive. But a year is a very long time in geopolitics. And Asim Munir, whose rapidly communal speech before the overseas Pakistani audience was the trigger point which brought up about the Pahalgam terror attack, is today Donald Trump's favorite field marshal. Not sure who the second favorite field marshal is, but Munir is the first one. Even today, he has thanked Asim Munir and the Prime Minister of Pakistan in that order for extending the ceasefire with Iran. To discuss how Pakistan has managed to wriggle the journey from survival to muscle flexing, I am being joined today by Dr. Shalini Chawla. Dr. Chawla is a distinguished fellow at the Center for Aerospace, Power and Strategic Studies, New Delhi. Currently, she heads the Neighborhood Studies program at CAPSS. Her personal focus is on Pakistan and Afghanistan, and she has authored 7 books. Welcome to Samvad, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mayankji.
Ma'am, the seeds of the present, it is said, are sown in the past. Before venturing into discussion of Pakistan of today, it is important to understand how Pakistan was positioned both internally and externally just before Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor. Now, my request is to you is to briefly navigate us the challenges confronting Pakistan a year ago.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on this very, very critical day, which, we'll always, our generations will remember. So as you very rightly said that, whatever we see today has its very firm roots in the past. And in Pakistan, what was happening pre-Pahalgam was actually, I always say that it's very important for us to understand what was happening there and what actually led to Pahalgam. So what the most important factor, if I would say number one, was that Pakistan had lost its strategic relevance after United States has exited Afghanistan in August 2021. It's been very, it for years, it has survived around that strategic relevance, which it gathered with the strategic developments. We saw how it kind of became a military ally and joined the military alliance of United States in 50s, 60s. Then also, it became the frontline state for United States in 1980s. And then again, we saw post 9/11. So it was really craving that strategic relevance. Also, US was not taking any interest in Afghanistan and also in Pakistan. So that was one factor. A second factor was, and which is very, very important, that military's image in the country was very badly tarnished. The Imran Khan's popularity, his very overt manner of, calling military traitors. He also called, military Mir Jafar. So something like that, this kind of image tarnishing, what we saw during Imran Khan's time with the mass protests happening, we have never seen that in Pakistan. The image has been dented in the past, post Osama bin Laden's killing when Kayani was there, but not to this extent. So it was very critical for the military establishment to revive its image, to revive its power in the eyes of the people and also at the global level. But internally, yes, it was very, very critical for the military to do that. Third and very important factor was that there was continued instability in Pakistan politically. We saw what was happening to Imran Khan. Economically, Pakistan has always struggled. It's struggling even now, though you would have some figures which show some kind of stability. But the fact is that it goes through very, very rough patches, and it was going through a very rough patch at that point in time. And IMF was really flexing its muscles. They had very stiff conditionalities. The IMF loan was essential for Pakistan to get. And fourth factor, I think, which was another very important, that Kashmir had become very normal. And Pakistan really wanted to challenge that normalcy in Kashmir, and wanted it in the eyes of, at the international level, at the national level, that it's still, Pakistan's claim exists, and Pakistan will continue its activities there. So, number of tourists rising in Kashmir, other news which was coming in the media, and, the day-to-day business, and the youth were, supposedly very happy about the fact that the economy of Kashmir was really picking up. So another factor was that military now wanted to challenge this whole situation there. So I think Pahalgam, what we saw, and fifth, and very important factor was India's rise, and so you had completely different dynamics in Pakistan and India. I mean, there's never been any comparison in my mind because of the way we are as countries, the size, stature, economy. But in Pakistan's mind, it has always compared itself with India. So India's rise at the global level, India was very politically stable. We had, the same regime being elected with popular support for the third time, economy doing so well. So, everything was something which Pakistan just could not digest. And that's where we saw that Pahalgam, in their own mind, was the answer to, to deal with all these challenges. Also, whenever Pakistan is under a lot of stress, you will see that in their own mind, India provides the best distraction. So you will invariably, if you see and all the terror attacks which have happened, you will see that linkage somewhere or the other, that they do seek distraction of the domestic populace in India.
A lot of water obviously has flown down the Indus during the past year. Pakistan today is playing the peacemaker between US and Iran. Now, ironically, I mean, and for all practical purposes, it is the incubation factory of terrorism in the world. Now, it has become a very much appreciated mediator between nations. So, can one attribute this global amnesia to mental fogging of Donald Trump, or Munir's deft playing of his geopolitical cards? And there's some allusions to their strong whispers of financial malfeasance between Pakistan and the Americans. And Mehdi Hasan, he is no India lover, but he's also gone ahead and said that Pakistan has done a very good job of sucking up to Trump. Now, all this has happened even before happened. So, what exactly in your mind happened which has made Munir suddenly Munir? Because I'm stressing on Munir because he is the what should I say, the star of the show. So, what has happened during the past year?
You're very, very right in what you are saying, and the whole analysis that you give where Pakistan stands today. So what happened after Pahalgam? So what we see Pakistan today in the last, say, 1 month or 1.5 months is not something which has suddenly happened. It's a build-up of the whole year, of how Pakistan has strategically worked to get and create this space for itself. So what we saw Pahalgam, what happened after Pahalgam internally, it kind of gathered its strength. We saw the, amendments which were passed, the 26th Amendment, the 27th Amendment. So military really stabilized itself, became all powerful, made sure that no other democratic institution has the capability to challenge it, which it was facing with the judiciary off and on, with Imran Khan's, judiciary kind of supporting Imran Khan's case or whatever we saw. And so internally it did that. It now has a regime which is completely, I would say, subservient. Sharifs, Shehbaz Sharif definitely never challenges Asimmunir, and that's something he likes and he's comfortable with. And externally, what we saw, that Pakistan's foreign relations in many ways are defined for decades around, by how its relationship stands with the United States. So its relationship with the US was very, very important for Pakistan. And what had happened pre-Pahalgam, that its relationship with US stood very dented because of Imran Khan, because he was openly, challenging the United States. Firstly, he said that it's because of the US that Pakistan's economy has been suffering, because Pakistan fought with the United States in Afghanistan. And then he started claiming that, his ouster, his going or his exit from the political scene was because of the conspiracy that was, whole articulated outside Pakistan and indicating to the West there. So Asim Munir, when he took, control, the very important factor in his mind and the civilian leadership was to mend their relationship with the United States. And what did we see? If you go back and watch every little development, it's very, very clear how Pakistan was playing its cards extremely well. As soon as Trump took power, they handed over Sharifullah to United States, the guy who was responsible for the Kabul airport bombing. The guy just suddenly emerged, and just at the right time, they kind of produced him. So first brownie point was earned then. And then we suddenly started this talk about the critical minerals, which started, flashing all over the place, that Pakistan has critical minerals worth millions, billions, whatever. And if they actually had these critical minerals, or have supposedly, what were the Chinese doing till for so many days, years? I've not understood. Why haven't the Chinese taken out those minerals? Why haven't the Saudis taken them out? But those whole notions of critical minerals, and they kind of really strengthened their lobbying in United States. Millions of dollars were spent in US to lobby for Pakistan. They really worked on that part, their inroads into Washington. And also then we had other, aspects which you talked about, of, the crypto deal and other financial aspects which were there. And so the Pakistan step by step started working towards that. And then you have Asim. And then what happened, the cherry on the top was Pakistan giving United States the credit for, ceasefire between India and Pakistan in the May 2025 conflict. And then the next step was nominating President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. So there has been a very systematic build-up to kind of mend its relationship. And I think for the time being at present, it has worked. How long this will sustain, because Pakistan will stay the way it is, even if it has its relationship, at this level with US at the moment. I don't think Pakistan is going to change in any form in terms of its strategic calculus. In fact, very interestingly, the CRS report, which has come in March 2026, which is, which talks about the fact that how Pakistan is the hub of the terror organizations. The US report, the Congressional Research report which has come out there. And this report talks about 5 categories of terror outfits which are in Pakistan, flourishing there. So it talks about Afghanistan-oriented terrorism. It talks about global-oriented terrorists. It calls about India-oriented terrorists. Then militant, sectarian militancy is there, and also domestic oriented terrorists. So it's not that US is completely blinded on that front. But at the moment, we do see that Pakistan has managed to create that space where it has positioned itself, that it's an actor which is in a position to kind of be the communication channel between the US and Iran, and it is ready to do that job. So it is a buildup of all these aspects, and also obviously it has good relationship with Saudi Arabia. It has good relationship with, the Islamic world. Iran, there has been problems we have seen in the past, but in the last 1 year, that also they have tried to kind of balance that factor, because Pakistan has very high stakes in the Iran crisis. I mean, the whole world has stakes, even India has stakes. But because Pakistan shares borders, the stakes for Pakistan are very high. And this Iran crisis becomes even more important for them to be resolved, because it is really fighting this intense war with Afghanistan on the other side, which is like not we don't see any respite there. So it can't manage, confrontations on all sides. That is fighting with Afghanistan, it's fighting TTP, it starts this thing, Iran crisis goes on, and tensions with India is anyway high. So I think it is a combined factor that we see, that Pakistan's positioning, and it's presenting itself of that, strategic relevance to United States, that has kind of brought it to this position at the moment.
I'll restrict myself for the moment, ma'am, to this US and Pakistan relationship. It's like a bad marriage where the partners, they cannot stay together, they cannot separate also, and they keep coming back and going away. Because there's a history to this. Hamid Gul once said, I think it was in 2014, when he said that we use the Americans to defeat America in Afghanistan. And there's this very famous quote of Hillary Clinton where she told the Pakistanis that you cannot keep snakes in your backyard and expect them to bite only your neighbors. Yet Pakistan continues to breed snakes, which not only bites the neighbors but themselves also. And yet Americans have an enigmatic preference for Pakistan as partners. I mean, I'm sure they're not blinded, they're not blindsided also. But is it naivety? Is it strategic naivety, or just, to put it very lightly, a marriage of convenience?
I think you're right on that sense, on the last sentence, a marriage of strategic convenience. Because the way Pakistan is positioned, because the way the Pakistan is, kind of its willingness to do that. And also, the lobbying that Pakistan has in United States is extremely strong. There are very clear evidences of the fact that how Pakistan has worked towards, shaping the opinion there in US. So that part, they have been very focused on that part. Also, if go back and see, whether it is, the marriage has broken and they've come back broken, but they have had very long phases of alliances. So those alliances definitely will have some parts which are showing impact now. And at the moment, United States definitely knows that it needs Pakistan. In fact, it has always kept Pakistan warm, even though when we saw that, they declined, they cut off the security assistance. If you go into the figures of the non-security assistance, which was coming from Pakistan, even after the security assistance like arms and other things were cut off, the non-security assistance has been pretty high, and the people-to-people contacts have been pretty critical there, pretty critical part of it. You go to any think tank in Washington, you will typically see, scholars from Pakistan there. So there is a step-by-step approach that Pakistan follows. It presents itself as a convenient actor at the moment. Yes, it is in a position to talk to all the parties. So it's a culminated effect that you see there repeatedly. And I won't say that US doesn't have the realization. I mean, the world was talking about it, but then here you have the CRS report, which is talking about the fact that, Pakistan has these categories of terror groups. So there is a realization. But at the moment, I mean, in the Iran crisis, I think there is that factor of channelizing the whole process through the convenience is definitely there. And yes, they do manage to convince the world that, we'll do the good. And I mean, they're talking and reiterating that we are the peacemakers. But when it comes to India, obviously you will have other aspects of the strategy that you see. So my what I've been talking repeatedly is that this whole right now where Pakistan is positioned is really emboldened Pakistan. Now, the question that we in India need to ask ourselves, that how will the emboldened Pakistan position itself against us? Because in the past, we have not had we have seen the experiences which have been very, I would say not, I don't want to use the term right now, what I want to say, but yes, an emboldened Pakistan has always been I think it just increases its capacity to to try to hit us, its effort. So it gets emboldened in terms of doing what it wants to do. So I don't think Pakistan's strategy and its strategic calculus is going to be altering even with this diplomatic positioning of a peacemaker. With India, I think the strategic calculus looks that it's going to be unlikely to change.
It's very important, ma'am, because we're talking on a day when Pahalgam happened. Because you talked of emboldenment of the Pakistani leadership, the military leadership, obviously. And we have
Yeah.
seen that whenever these people have come in, have gained power, be it General Ziaul Haq, Parvez Musharraf, and now Asimmunir. I mean, they have made India their focus. It's always been about terrorism, some sort of conflict or the other. So I totally agree that it is very significant for India right now, and we need to be prepared. But I'll take you back to the strengthening the Arnold Schwarzeneggerization of Asim Munir. He became the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Pakistan because you spoke of the 27th Amendment to the Pakistani Constitution, which was passed within a week, I believe. There was no
Yes.
discussions, no debates. He became the chief
Exactly.
of defense forces. That post was introduced into the hierarchy, and he has himself given himself the immunity, obviously through the politicians, till I mean he's serving till 2030, God knows. And perhaps this is the first time that I am seeing that we have seen coups take place. But then these people have come in charge and become the president or the martial law administrator or whatever. But this is the first time when I'm seeing it very evidently that the politicians have been kept as a front. There has been no coup as such, save and except the 27th Amendment, which one can say it's a sort of a semi coup. And now he's mediating, he's become an interlocutor, he's going to meet Trump in the Oval Office. He's going with a message which I found to be very optic wise, very strong messaging. He's going to Iran in his dressed in his army fatigues. And when he's going to meet Vance, he's in his suit, Asim Munir. And I was reading somewhere that as of now, he's more popular than Imran Khan, who was himself very popular in Pakistan as on date. My question
Hmm.
is, ma'am, has Asim Munir replaced Jinnah as the most powerful Pakistani ever?
See, I think it's many ways, many factors that you brought together are very right. So when Asim Munir took power, 26th Amendment and then 27th Amendment, one of the big objectives I would say that he had was to keep Imran Khan inside behind bars. And that he could have kept only when he had the complete power and he kind of make judiciary weak. All the both the amendments made judiciary very weak. It kind of changed the whole architecture of the judiciary. That. So one of the biggest objective was, the threat that he faced was popularity of Imran Khan. And there was no way he would have allowed, and they do share a past, Imran Khan and Asim Munir when he was the DGISI. So definitely he did not want Imran Khan to be out. And his his luck, I would say that in this whole Iran crisis, the whole issue of Imran Khan is just dissolved. Even few months back, you had, a lot of noise that the way he's been treated in the prison and he needs to be out and his health issues. But now it's all about Pakistan being on the diplomatic stage, being the peacemaker. Imran Khan is completely, disappeared now there. So at that time, that was one of the critical objectives of Munir. And then there was still, I would say, there was military dominated. There must have been some fear about, you can't raise your voice. So freedom of expression does face a challenge. We have seen in Pakistan what happens, whatever we keep hearing. Um, and then Operation Sindoor or post May, definitely his image went through a complete shift. The army's image went through a complete shift, and the way Munir presented himself. And what did they do? They really claimed the military victory, which they actually didn't have. And the whole claim of the military victory was based on the 7th of May. Nobody in Pakistan ever talked about the 8th of May or 9th of May or 10th of May. It was whole discussion was about what happened on the 7th. Supposedly Indian jets were lost. And the claim of the military victory, the way it kind of was pronounced within Pakistan and at the global stage, I think really, brought I mean, I would say the praise for him within the country, restoration of somewhere this whole feeling in the country that they are the ultimate saviors, and army military is the savior, and we need to continue to trust this institution to keep the country together. So I think the narrative which was formed within Pakistan and outside really changed his image. And at the moment, obviously, he's one of the most critical man who has all the powers, who internally, who has also kind of enjoys legitimacy at the global front at the moment. I'm not saying I don't see this sustainable, because to sustain that, a country needs to be really strong within, which we don't see in Pakistan. But at the moment, yes. Now, I don't know whether I can really compare him with the founder of Pakistan, actually, and say that, because that time was very different. And this is a very, now, there are a lot of this whole phase, what we have seen within Pakistan, the whole factor about Pakistan being guarded from India has been much more strengthened in the last 70, 75 years, because Pakistan has perpetually propagated this factor in the domestic population that India wants to destroy Pakistan. And that's where you do see the military establishment, buildup of the nuclear weapons. Everything is based around that perception. And that's where the Chinese alliance came into being. So even their alliance with China, basically now you see multiple dimensions of that alliance, CPEC diplomacy. But the bottom line was the military alliance, and that was because of their common hostility towards India. So the projection of the threat perception which Pakistan has managed to build up in the last 50, 60 years, that projection has continued, and Asimmunir has managed to just, I would say, reap the dividends of that catering to that projection in the population of within Pakistan. Yeah.
I believe this facade is enabling because there are Iranian TV reports that they are calling out the double game being played out by Pakistan and criticizing Pakistanis a lot. But I'll come back to Pakistan, ma'am, and one final question. Because Pakistan, we have seen that they have leveraged their strategic location throughout history, their history. I mean, they reap benefits from the Cold War, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, 9/11, everything. But that equation now seems to be reversing because the Gulf tensions are now triggering a capital flight. The reserves are depleting. They're asking for loans, getting loans. I mean, just tiding over their financial crisis. There is the question of repayment, which is increasing, rising unemployment, rising costs. So while it might pretend to be an regional power, but it has pressing economic imperative to resolve the crisis also, because it has been ravaged for decades by external shocks and mismanagement, I would say. It is heavily dependent on the oil coming in from the Gulf. So being a diplomatic strongman for Munir and the Pakistani army is all very good. But how does the Pakistani army placate the rising economic grievances internally?
Yeah, you are actually so right on this part, that while it has managed that diplomatic power show, it has managed its whole relationship with all the big powers at the moment, and very articulately. And just going back to one of your questions where you say, how did Pakistan do it? So this is maybe the only country which has managed its relationship with China and US at the same time. And also the, Muslim world at the same time it has managed. So very, very, wise articulation of, relationships that it manages to do. Um, but what happens, what is internal situation is, yes, the situation is bad. I fully agree. We have now the economic growth showing some signs of stability, but those are not sustainable because there are deep fiscal structural issues in the economy which have not been solved, which we know, which also IMF has been pressing for. The revenue base has not been expanded. The tax issue is definitely a challenge. There is rising unemployment. All those factors are definitely there, and it continues to rely on the external assistance. So now UAE, yes, it asks for the money back, but then the Saudis have committed up to $8 billion. So it has very strong partnerships which kind of manage to sustain the economy. So it's more like a sustenance of an ailing economy. um, how will it kind of balance that way? The economy has been in this kind of a situation for a very long time. Yes, it does impact the overall functioning of the state. It does impact multiple other aspect of the national power. Uh, but again, Mangji, I would go back to the basic question that one has to see that, we have had adventures from Pakistan at the time, when it was really in major economic crisis. For example, when Kargil happened, the GDP was less than, I think, 2% at that time. You remember the time when Pakistan was really on the verge of economic collapse. So, what happens is that their calculation and their ability to conduct this misadventurism is not related to what's happening inside the country and the economic crisis. Yes, these will have its own challenges in the country. And second part, which is very important, is that because of this very strong Chinese alliance that they have, the economic crisis in Pakistan does not impact their military modernization. It does not impact the nuclear buildup. And what is happening to the nuclear buildup? Nuclear buildup is to blackmail India, to conduct the strategy of terrorism under the umbrella of nuclear weapons with the first use doctrine. So you will see that even in the deep crisis, the modernization continues to happen because of the Chinese support. Because it's a cheaper equipment, Chinese also facilitate the deliveries at much lower. Now, if you see this crisis, and then you have the announcement of the 40 J-35s coming from Chinese, the aircraft deal obviously is there. It's going to be the first country to receive it. So you will see that modernization spree is going on with the Chinese support. So I think for us, what matters is really, if we have to kind of carefully watch Pakistan, is the military modernization has been kept up. The nuclear weapons are growing. It's supposedly one of the fastest growing arsenal in the world, by the way. And the nuclear signaling, they continue to, even during May 2025, in the beginning, they did use the threat of nuclear weapons. The railway minister talked about it, Bhutto talked about it. And even now, there was on a TV show, one of the discussions said that what happens if we are stuck, by a missile, and they said we are going to be using nuclear weapons against India. So that factor of, that objective of keeping that deterrence against India will always be there despite the economic crisis because of the Chinese alliance, which is extremely strong for Pakistan. And now the Chinese are also supporting the economy of Pakistan, which they didn't do. We had last time the rollovers from the Chinese coming in. So yes, the troubles are there, deep troubles are there. And these troubles will show their impact on nation as a whole, definitely, and they are showing the impact there. But the overall dynamics, if you see, and the factors which actually India should be watching is, I think, the military modernization and the nuclear weapons, and their continued, I would say, the nurturing of the terror groups.
We'll keep.
And by the way, Bangji, one more thing I want to add, that, the more internally fractured Pakistan is, more it will depend on targeting India. because the entire focus of showing its power and legitimacy of the state to its people is showing their ability to hurt India. So we have to see all these factors very, very carefully when it's a very complex dynamics that we see in Pakistan. But yeah, that's, you don't choose your neighbors, and that is one of the situation that we have to face. Yeah,
We as Indians will have to keep vigilant, ma'am, because that is all I can,
exactly.
because that is the
Yes,
price one pays for freedom. And
exactly.
we'll
You
have
said
to
it so rightly. Yes,
we'll
we
have to
cannot undermine. We have to be very, very vigilant. You're right about that. So we are growing. We are very confident of our capability. We are confident of our determination. We are confident how we will deal with the terror attacks. But one has to be very vigilant about it.
we'll have to conclude on that note, ma'am, and appreciate your joining us, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.